When there is no real, grounded desire in a relationship, the energy shifts in a very specific way. The connection stops being about closeness, trust, or emotional safety and starts becoming about stimulation. Conversations feel charged but shallow. There is laughter, tension, even passion at times, but very little peace. What's happening beneath the surface is simple emotional excitement has replaced emotional connection. Genuine desire seeks depth. It wants to know, to understand, to build. When desire is missing, the nervous system looks elsewhere for feeling. Calm becomes uncomfortable. Consistency feels dull. Predictability feels like loss. So instead of leaning into closeness, she unconsciously leans into situations that create emotional spikes, confusion, uncertainty, drama, or intensity. This is why you may notice that peaceful moments don't hold her attention for long. When things are stable, communication drops, engagement feels flat. But the moment there's tension, distance, or emotional unpredictability, her energy returns. She becomes more expressive, more reactive, more alive. That contrast isn't accidental. It's stimulation replacing desire. Emotional stimulation doesn't require vulnerability. That's the key difference. Real connection asks someone to be seen, to slow down, to risk intimacy. Stimulation only asks for reaction. It creates feeling without exposure. And when genuine desire isn't present, stimulation feels safer than closeness. You'll often see this in how conversations unfold. Deep, grounded discussions about values, direction, or the relationship itself feel heavy or avoided. But playful conflict, teasing with an edge, or emotionally charged exchanges get more engagement. It's not that she wants chaos, it's that chaos creates sensation. This is also why men get confused in these dynamics. On the surface, it looks like attraction. There's emotion, energy, intensity. But it's inconsistent and unstable. One day she's pulled in, the next she's distant. One moment she craves attention, the next she resists closeness. That inconsistency isn't mystery. It's lack of genuine desire being masked by emotional stimulation. When desire is real, consistency feels good. Presence feels grounding. Emotional safety deepens attraction rather than weakening it. But when desire is absent, safety removes the spark. Calm feels like emptiness. And instead of addressing that truth, stimulation becomes the substitute. This is where many men make the mistake of trying to fix the dynamic by becoming more exciting, more reactive, more dramatic, more emotionally available in the wrong way. But matching stimulation with stimulation only reinforces the cycle. It doesn't create desire, it just feeds the thrill. The deeper issue is that emotional connection requires polarity, respect, and intention. Thrill requires none of that, only reaction. And reaction is easy to provoke when someone is emotionally invested but not emotionally centered. It's important to understand this without resentment. This behavior isn't always conscious. It's often driven by an untrained emotional system that equates feeling something with feeling alive. When genuine desire isn't present, stimulation becomes the shortcut. The turning point comes when a man stops participating in emotional roller coasters and starts observing the pattern clearly. Calm consistency should not require performance. Presence should not feel like boredom. An attraction that only appears during tension is not attraction, it's stimulation dependency. Once you recognize the difference, you stop chasing intensity and start valuing alignment. And when stimulation no longer works as a substitute, truth has space to surface. When a woman does not feel genuine desire in a relationship, one of the earliest and most noticeable indicators is emotional distance. This distance is subtle at first, manifesting in delayed responses to messages, limited engagement in conversation, or reluctance to share personal thoughts and feelings. She may still show interest superficially, attend social events, or participate in activities with her partner, but her emotional investment is minimal. This creates a sense of disconnection that many men fail to recognize, often interpreting it as a temporary mood or external stress rather than a deeper lack of desire. Emotional distance is a protective mechanism. When genuine desire is absent, women subconsciously reduce vulnerability to prevent disappointment or overexposure. They maintain a level of engagement that satisfies curiosity or social expectation but avoids deep emotional commitment. Men who fail to notice this often overextend themselves, investing energy affection and attention without reciprocation. Over time, this imbalance leads to frustration, confusion, and resentment as the man struggles to understand why his efforts do not foster intimacy or closeness. In addition to limited engagement, a woman without genuine desire often communicates through subtle cues. She may avoid initiating contact, give short or non-committal answers, or appear distracted during shared moments. These behaviors are rarely aggressive or confrontational. They are quiet, calculated, and protective. Modern men, conditioned to equate attention with interest, frequently overlook these signals. They interpret small gestures of affection as evidence of deeper desire, when in reality, these are superficial actions designed to maintain appearance rather than express true emotional investment. Another characteristic of emotional distance is inconsistency. A woman may show bursts of attention, flirtation, or affection that seem promising, only to withdraw again without explanation. This pattern is not necessarily malicious. It reflects a lack of sustained desire rather than intentional manipulation. Men often misread these cycles, interpreting them as challenges to be overcome rather than accurate reflections of her internal state. Understanding that inconsistency is a symptom of missing genuine desire allows a man to assess the relationship more objectively and adjust expectations accordingly. Emotional distance also affects physical intimacy. When desire is low, women may engage minimally or out of obligation rather than enthusiasm. Physical connection may feel mechanical or disconnected, lacking the warmth and energy present when genuine desire is present. This subtle difference is often difficult for men to articulate, but is felt instinctively. Over time, these patterns erode both attraction and satisfaction, reinforcing the underlying issue. The absence of true desire cannot be compensated for by external effort alone. Finally, recognizing emotional distance as a signal rather than a personal failure is crucial. Men often internalize a lack of engagement as rejection or inadequacy, creating anxiety and self-doubt. In reality, emotional distance is an honest reflection of her interest level, not a reflection of his worth or capability. By observing and interpreting these signals objectively, men can maintain clarity, avoid wasted effort, and focus on interactions where genuine desire is present. Understanding emotional distance is the first step in discerning whether a relationship is driven by authentic connection or merely a pursuit of thrill. When a woman lacks genuine desire in a relationship, one of the most revealing behaviors is her pursuit of thrill rather than authentic connection. This pattern manifests in ways that are subtle but unmistakable for those who understand female nature and relational dynamics. Women in this state are often drawn to novelty, excitement, or situations that provide stimulation, even if these experiences come at the expense of emotional depth or long-term commitment. For men who misinterpret this behavior, it can create confusion, frustration, and a sense of constant effort without meaningful reciprocity. Thrill-seeking behavior often appears in the form of attention to external validation. A woman may seek compliments, flirtation from others, or engagement in activities that make her feel noticed and desirable. This is not inherently malicious, but it reflects a focus on excitement rather than on building a deep bond with her partner. For the man who invests emotional energy and effort into the relationship, it can feel destabilizing. He may perceive her actions as mixed signals or emotional inconsistency, not realizing that the root cause is her lack of genuine desire and her focus on thrill over substance. Another indicator is unpredictability in emotional and behavioral responses. She may be intensely affectionate one moment and distant the next, enthusiastic one day and disengaged the next. This volatility is not always intentional manipulation. It often reflects her internal state of seeking stimulation rather than emotional connection. Men often misread these fluctuations as challenges to be overcome, thinking that persistence, effort, or strategic attention will ignite lasting desire. In reality, desire cannot be manufactured when the underlying motivation is thrill-seeking. Women who pursue thrill over connection often prioritize novelty and excitement in ways that subtly undermine stability in the relationship. They may become easily bored with routines, dismissive of predictable gestures, or focused on experiences that provide immediate emotional highs rather than consistent emotional intimacy. Men may interpret this behavior as a lack of commitment or respect, but it is more accurately a reflection of her internal focus on stimulation rather than genuine emotional investment. Understanding this distinction is critical for assessing the health and potential of the relationship. Physical intimacy may also reflect this pattern. When desire is not genuine, intimacy may occur sporadically, with intensity tied to novelty or external stimulation rather than sustained emotional connection. Men may feel a disconnect between their emotional investment and her engagement, creating a sense of imbalance. Thrill-focused behavior does not allow for consistent, deepening intimacy, and over time it undermines trust and long-term satisfaction in the relationship. It is important for men to recognize that thrill-seeking is a behavioral signal, not a personal reflection of inadequacy. When a woman pursues excitement over connection, it is an indication of where her attention and desire lie, not a judgment on the man's worth or efforts. By observing these patterns objectively, men can avoid wasted energy on attempting to fix or compensate for missing desire. Understanding this behavior allows men to make informed decisions about investment, boundaries, and engagement, rather than being caught in cycles of confusion and frustration. Ultimately, recognizing thrill-seeking behavior as a substitute for genuine desire empowers men to discern the true nature of the relationship. Women who act out of excitement rather than authentic desire cannot provide the deep, consistent connection that fosters long-term attraction and partnership. And that awareness is essential for maintaining clarity and emotional integrity in any romantic interaction. One of the clearest signs that a woman lacks genuine desire in a relationship is her limited emotional investment. Emotional investment is the willingness to engage deeply, to share vulnerability, and to contribute to the growth of a connection. When a woman is driven by thrill rather than authentic attraction, she often withholds this investment, creating a subtle but powerful imbalance in the relationship. For modern men, recognizing this behavior is critical because ignoring it can lead to repeated frustration, confusion, and wasted effort. Women who are not genuinely invested may participate in the relationship superficially. They might attend dates, engage in conversation, or even display affection, but these actions are often performative rather than heartfelt. Men frequently misinterpret this as interest or commitment, failing to notice the lack of consistent depth. Emotional investment is not just about being present physically, it is about engagement on a mental and emotional level. Without it, connection remains shallow and the relationship lacks the foundation necessary for long-term growth. A lack of emotional investment often reveals itself through minimal effort in communication. She may respond to messages inconsistently, give curt or generic answers, or avoid discussions about feelings, plans, or the future. These behaviors signal that she is not prioritizing the emotional dimension of the relationship. For men who are deeply invested, this can feel confusing as it contrasts with their own desire to nurture and strengthen the bond. The disparity between her effort and his can create a sense of imbalance and dissatisfaction that is difficult to reconcile. In addition, women who are driven by thrill rather than genuine desire often avoid vulnerability. Vulnerability requires trust and emotional courage, and it is a hallmark of genuine interest. A woman who withholds vulnerability maintains emotional distance, keeping the relationship on a surface level. Men may interpret occasional glimpses of openness as proof of investment, but these are often situational, temporary, or motivated by convenience rather than authentic engagement. True desire is marked by consistent willingness to share fears, hopes, and insecurities, not selective exposure. Another key indicator is the prioritization of self-interest over the shared emotional experience. A woman not genuinely invested may make decisions based on what benefits her excitement, convenience, or personal gratification rather than the health of the relationship. She may resist compromise, avoid difficult conversations, or disengage when deeper connection requires effort. These patterns demonstrate a focus on immediate satisfaction rather than sustained relational growth, highlighting that thrill, not authentic desire, is driving her behavior. Emotional investment also affects responsiveness to conflict. In relationships where genuine desire exists, disagreements are approached as opportunities to understand, adapt, and strengthen connection. Women who lack real investment may avoid resolution, deflect responsibility, or minimize issues, prioritizing short-term comfort or excitement over long-term harmony. This avoidance signals a lack of commitment to the relational process and an absence of deep emotional engagement. Recognizing the absence of emotional investment is essential for men who seek meaningful long-term connections. It allows them to distinguish between surface-level engagement driven by thrill and genuine attraction fueled by desire. Misreading these signals can lead to repeated cycles of confusion, overcompensation, and emotional burnout. When a woman withholds emotional investment, it is not a reflection of a man's worth, but an accurate signal of her internal motivation. And understanding this dynamic is key to making conscious choices about where to invest time, energy, and emotion in a relationship. One of the most telling signs that a woman lacks genuine desire in a relationship is her prioritization of novelty over stability. This behavior reflects a pursuit of excitement and thrill rather than authentic emotional connection. When novelty becomes the driving force, the relationship often feels unpredictable, inconsistent, and ultimately unfulfilling for the partner who seeks depth, trust, and long-term alignment. Modern men frequently misinterpret this behavior, believing that their efforts to please or engage will ignite genuine desire, when in reality, the dynamic is rooted in stimulation rather than connection. Women motivated by novelty often seek constant change, new experiences, or external validation to maintain interest. While she may enjoy the company of her partner, her engagement is often tied to excitement rather than emotional commitment. For instance, she may respond enthusiastically to spontaneous dates, adventurous activities, or flirtatious interactions, but her investment wanes during routine or predictable moments. This pattern indicates that her interest is conditional, dependent on the intensity of the moment rather than a sustained connection. Men may mistake bursts of enthusiasm as proof of desire, failing to notice the underlying inconsistency. Another manifestation of prioritizing novelty is attention to external stimuli. A woman may seek excitement from interactions outside the relationship, such as social media validation, flirting with others, or engaging in high-stimulation environments. These behaviors are not necessarily overtly disloyal, but they highlight that her focus is on novelty-driven experiences rather than deep relational engagement. Men who do not recognize this may feel confused, questioning their own attractiveness or the stability of the connection, without realizing that her motivation lies in stimulation rather than sustained desire. This thrill-seeking tendency also influences communication patterns. Conversations may be engaging and animated when discussing exciting topics or new experiences, but superficial or disengaged when deeper emotional matters arise. A lack of curiosity about long-term goals, feelings, or relational growth signals that the priority is excitement, not investment. Men who try to push for emotional depth often encounter resistance or indifference, reinforcing the fact that novelty, not connection, dictates her engagement. Prioritizing novelty over stability can also impact decision-making in the relationship. A woman driven by thrill may avoid commitment, resist routines, or shift her expectations unpredictably, seeking experiences that offer emotional highs rather than enduring connection. Men often perceive these actions as capricious or challenging, attempting to keep up with her desires. However, genuine desire is consistent and does not require constant stimulation to remain engaged. Understanding this distinction is critical for men to protect their own emotional energy and avoid being trapped in cycles of temporary engagement without lasting connection. Physical intimacy may also reflect this pattern. Engagement in intimate moments may feel spontaneous, energetic, or inconsistent, driven more by excitement than emotional closeness. While these moments can create temporary attraction, they do not sustain long-term desire or connection. Men may misread these bursts as genuine engagement, overlooking the underlying lack of consistent investment. Ultimately, recognizing the prioritization of novelty over stability allows men to assess the true nature of the relationship. It provides clarity that the attraction may be situational, thrill-based, and transient rather than grounded in genuine desire and long-term commitment. And understanding this behavior helps men make conscious choices about investment, boundaries, and the potential for authentic connection. When a woman lacks genuine desire in a relationship, one of the most revealing behaviors is how she manages and manipulates attention to maintain control. This behavior is subtle, yet powerful, and often goes unnoticed by men who are focused on pleasing, appeasing, or trying to win her affection. Instead of acting from authentic desire, she may create a dynamic where her attention is a currency given or withheld strategically to maintain interest, excitement, or leverage. Recognizing this pattern is crucial for men who want clarity, respect, and a genuine connection. Women who operate from thrill rather than genuine desire often alternate between engagement and withdrawal. She may shower attention, affection, or validation one moment, creating a sense of closeness and intimacy, only to pull back suddenly, leaving her partner feeling uncertain, anxious, or compelled to chase her. This push and pull dynamic is not accidental. It stems from a focus on controlling the emotional environment rather than nurturing mutual connection. Men frequently interpret these fluctuations as challenges to overcome, believing that persistence or extra effort will ignite real desire, when in reality, the behavior reflects her strategy to maintain control over the emotional space. Another manifestation of attention manipulation is selective responsiveness. She may answer messages, calls, or inquiries promptly when it serves her interest or mood, but delay, ignore, or minimize communication at other times. The inconsistency is confusing and emotionally taxing for the partner who is invested in building connection. While some men may try to rationalize this behavior or attribute it to external factors, it often signals that her engagement is not rooted in authentic desire, but in maintaining a sense of thrill or authority in the dynamic. Manipulation of attention also appears in social contexts. A woman may seek admiration from others, flirt subtly, or engage in behaviors that elicit reactions, using these moments to gauge her desirability or control perception. Men may feel threatened, jealous, or uncertain, but these reactions are precisely what reinforce her sense of influence. Attention, when used strategically, becomes a tool for maintaining emotional leverage, rather than a reflection of genuine attraction or commitment. This pattern also affects intimacy. Physical closeness or sexual engagement may occur when she chooses to give attention, creating a link between her desire and her control over the interaction. Men may misinterpret these moments as evidence of genuine desire, but they are often situational and contingent on maintaining excitement or influence rather than sustained connection. Emotional investment from her partner cannot compensate for the absence of authentic engagement. It only perpetuates the cycle. Men often overlook these behaviors because they are subtle and wrapped in charm, care, or occasional affection. However, attention that is inconsistent, conditional, or strategically withheld is a clear indicator that desire is not genuine. Understanding this dynamic allows men to separate performance from authentic engagement, reducing confusion and emotional overinvestment. It also highlights the importance of observing patterns over time rather than reacting to isolated behaviors. Ultimately, manipulation of attention is a signal that the relationship is being driven by thrill and control rather than genuine desire. Women who act this way are not fully invested in connection, but are using attention as a tool to maintain interest, excitement, or emotional leverage. And recognizing this behavior empowers men to make conscious choices about boundaries, engagement, and where to invest their energy for meaningful, authentic relationships.